Hey everybody, welcome back. It is the Razzball Fantasy Baseball Podcast. I am Beaton, joined by the one, the only, the fantasy master Lothario, Gray Albright. How you doing over there, Gray?
Hey, what's going on there, Beaton? What's up? We have a Raz Slam winner, an overall champion. That is the drum roll. Bob won the Raz Slam. I think he probably has a last name. Imagine your name was just Bob. It was just Bob. Hey, what's going on, Bob? Bob, should I call you Bob or Mr.? It's actually just Bob. That's it. It's just Bob. Yeah, he probably doesn't want us announcing his whole name on the show anyway. Or maybe he doesn't care. Either way, congratulations, Bob. Bob is a two-time overall champion with Razzball. He won the Raz Bowl, I believe, in 2022. I don't know. He has a trophy to prove it though. Signed by B-Don. I think something like that.
Yeah, back when I was still had a heavy involvement in our contests, Gray. I've now done what you do, and I've handed that off to more qualified and better people. So it's I send them a few names every year for the podcast league winners and RCL league winners and things like that to get in. But yeah, I mean, I will say you can go out to my Twitter page at RazBeaton, and I have retweeted his announcement. So, I mean, I feel like it's not a hidden thing, but you are in California, so we will do full data privacy rights here, Gray, and not give his full name. But you can go out to Twitter and see who won it. I mean, he's now won a football and a baseball. That's amazing work, Gray. I don't know why he isn't here doing my job, but I'm happy to continue here as long as you'll have me and not replace me with Bob.
That's actually a great segue into revealing next year's podcast host. Bob, come on down.
We got to find him a better psynonym than mine. You didn't do any consulting with me before I made mine, and I'm too unoriginal to come up with anything. So, it just kind of happened, and it's terrible. We've come up with at least a half dozen that are better by now, but we're stuck now.
Actually, I should say podcast hosting for Razzball is contingent on you doing everything. So if you're not able to do podcasting, then unfortunately we're going to have to rescind the offer.
This is true. Gray knows how to turn on his computer, maybe. The mic is already hooked up, so that's good. You may have to walk him through some things and set up, but it's okay. Then you just have to do everything else from there.
I have so Cougs right now is currently in Paris. She went on a vacation without me. So Cougs is in Paris. So I'm in charge of taking care of Ted the dog all on my own. And today I was going to feed him, and I accidentally called him Turd, and Ted did not like that. So I had to. What dog do you know that needs serious coaxing in order to eat? I was like, please, I'm sorry I called you Turd. Would you please just eat? Come on, man. I have to do a podcast. This was happening right before the podcast. I was literally arguing with the dog for about 10 minutes to try and get him to eat. Everything's fine though now. He has eaten. He eats he eats around certain things he doesn't like in his food. He's very picky. But yeah, I'm by myself. So, the fact that you brought up that all I can do is turn on a computer, that Cougs left me home by myself. I feel a little bit like the McAllister kid from Home Alone. I'm a little lost.
Somebody needs to send the cops over to patrol Gray's neighborhood for him. Make sure that the burglars, maybe just set your inside alarm, Gray, and just don't move for like the next 48 hours. That might be a path that we could go with. Hey, you can always fly over here, Gray, and stay with me for a weekend. I don't know what we would do, but we could find something to do, I'm sure.
Honestly, I might take you up on it. It might be easier for me to be to fly across the country and to get taken care of for a week than it is to handle everything that goes on with keeping together a house for a week. I'm like,
my house is fully prepared, Gray. There's already actually food in the fridge, so you just warm it up, assuming you can use the microwave or air fryer, maybe. That might be going too far, but one or the other, and you're all set over here.
It was actually Cougs. So Cougs contacted me from France. She had forgotten a dress that she's there for a wedding. Anyway, or no, actually, I think it was a bar mitzvah. It doesn't matter what event she's there for. But anyway, she's there for an event, and she forgot her dress. So I had to go and bring the dress to FedEx. And she gave me like all the information of what I needed to do. So I go to the shipping store, and I'm like telling them, where the address in France that they have to send this to and the box size. She gave me all the information. And then I get to the very end and I'm like, here's the FedEx number. And they're like, we're not a FedEx store, sir. I'm like, oh man, wait, this is so you guys, every shipping store doesn't do FedEx? Like, no, that is not how shipping works. I'm like, okay.
See the name on the outside, sir, that says UPS? That should say FedEx on the one you want.
It was like a good 15 minutes. The guy's like wrapping it up. He's like, well, this is our box. I mean, you got to get. I'm like, oh God, why did I go through all that? Okay, give me back everything. I got to go to FedEx. It's the only way this works. Oh man. Anyway, back to fantasy baseball.
I feel like Cougs probably could have just bought a dress. I mean, I know what shipping is across the pond there. I feel like you just go buy a dress.
Ridiculous. She was like, it costs $211 to ship this thing. So I'm like, okay, whatever. I mean, I didn't even get into like, can't you just go buy a dress? That was way beyond like the whole, like if I start doing that over text, it becomes a whole thing. So I'm like, fine, I'll just go through it. So then this first shipping store I go to, I go through all the things, and before I say the FedEx number thing, they're like, it's $400. I'm like, $400? Really? Because she said it was 211, and I feel like she knows what she's talking about. But I mean, if it's 400, it's 400. And they're like, yeah. I was like, well, okay, here's the FedEx number. Thank God I didn't pay the $400 before they were like, this is not FedEx. Because that would have been like, oh my God, I would have heard it. I would have heard it. Oh, anyway.
Yeah, I can't help but think in my mind, if you're going to spend $400 on shipping for this dress, how much does said dress cost? But that's not for us to know, Gray, or at least not for me to know. You can just keep that information.
I'm not going to put that out here. I know this. I'm so clueless. I'm like, I have no idea.
Oh, I hope this is the one she doesn't listen to, Gray. Let's move on to some baseball. Maybe we can kind of shift in and she'll just kind of forget about it here for a second. Bryce Eldridge was called up by San Francisco. He is a top 30 prospect, given, pretty much any list you look at. He's played across AA and AAA, 34 games at AA, 66 games at AAA, 25 home runs, 1 stolen base. He hit 260, 333, 510. Did have a 29.3% strikeout rate, but also a 9.7% walk rate. Obviously, high prospect pedigree here, getting the late season call up from the Giants. What are your thoughts on Bryce Eldridge? And are you picking him up everywhere? What kind of, fab is almost like what you got left at this point. So maybe that's not really relevant, but what type of leagues are you looking at Bryce Eldridge?
Yeah, it's fab is like Well, in this one league, it's for I start with 1,000 and I have $6 left. So I guess I
Must
could
be like 4 months ago, Gray. I don't know how you got this far.
Yeah. I was looking at Bryce Eldridge. Actually, Cougs just texted me good night. Oh, sweet. Okay, anyway, I was looking at Bryce Eldridge, and the Giants had said originally they weren't going to call him up, and they were going to go with Dom Smith at first base. And the fact that Dom Smith could block anyone really is an issue with how MLB handles prospects. So yeah, I mean, Bryce Eldridge looks more or less ready. I guess he's got some issues with his strikeouts. He's got huge power. To me, like, he's still only 20 years old, but to me, he looks like this is more big picture. Obviously, we only have 2 weeks left. So, it is what it is. At this point, you pick him up if you need power, potentially if he's playing. But, all that aside, at this point, we may as well just talk about keeper leagues. And to me, he looks like a guy who is probably like Jack Caglione was this year. I could see him being that next year. Like, I think there's real contact issues in his profile as of right now. Again, he's only 20 years old, so that could straighten itself out pretty quickly. Like, just because he had a 30% strikeout rate in AAA does not mean he's going to have a 30% strikeout rate in, say, 2 or 3 years. Again, he's 20 years old. So, I mean, this is this is very, he's very young, and he can, grow into a all-star superstar even. Like, I wouldn't be shocked. He's got huge power, big power lefty corner infielder. I would say, it's impossible to really game out a 20-year-old. But if I had to guess, I would say in his prime, you're looking at a 35 to 42 homer, 260-ish hitter. It looks like, at least. And with good walks, he's always had solid walks in the minors. So maybe, a 375 on base percentage when everything's said and done. He doesn't have any speed, so that's not in his game. But, big power from a corner man absolutely works. I would say, you might be looking at potentially 2 years from now, though, when he's actually, when he fully clicks and everything comes together. It depends on how quickly he can figure out his contact, because he has had decent contact going along in the minors, earlier in his career. And saying earlier is ridiculous because he's so young. But when he was 19, he started to figure out in high A, he started to figure out contact. And then as he started progressing through the minors, he started losing contact. So at a certain point, it'll click again. It's just a matter of how long it takes to click. Now, we saw, this weekend, Anthony Rizzo retired, and showing my age a little bit. But I remember when Anthony Rizzo first was called up, it looked like he was going to struggle with strikeouts. And at a certain point, that did not, that was no longer an issue until, much later on in his career. But, when he went into his prime, he was a great hitter. And I think, the same will be of Eldridge at some point. I don't know if it's going to be next year. Like I said, it might be 2 years from now. He's either going to be Nick Kurtz next year, or he's going to be Jack Caglione. I would guess it's probably going to be Caglione, because I think, the contact issues that he's showing right now in AAA are going to continue next year. I'd be shocked if he's suddenly fixed as a 21-year-old. That doesn't mean he can't be, but I would be pretty surprised. I wouldn't be shocked to see him not even get called up until, May, June, potentially. I don't know if he's going to break camp. I don't know what they're, I think they're probably looking at, potentially him breaking camp. I think he's going to have every opportunity in spring training to break camp, But if he goes into spring training and hits 180 with a couple ding dongs, it ain't gonna matter if if his contact isn't better in spring training. He's going to get sent down, and he's going to start the year at AAA, which wouldn't be shocking at all, I don't think. Maybe 2 months in AAA, and he comes up in May, June, potentially. Or, I stand corrected, and he starts the year with the Giants. It could happen. But for right now, yeah, I mean, he's nothing but maybe in a daily league, if you're looking for a power guy and he's playing, I don't even know if he's going to play every day. I wouldn't be shocked if Wilmer Flores is in front of him in some games. So I'd be shocked if he plays every day, even this right now. So, yeah, I like him, though. I would grab him potentially if you have room to play a guy in a daily league when he's actually playing. But in most leagues, shallower than 12-team or shallower, you probably don't need to pick him up. You probably can find what he's going to give you off of waivers in most mixed leagues, at least. But yeah, I mean, he looks good though for keepers. I definitely am interested.
Yeah, I'm interested as well. And the strikeout rate I know is high this year, but previously, coming through the minors, it really wasn't as bad. He was more like a 26% strikeout rate guy. Just looking through the numbers, Gray, it looks like they kind of either they asked him to or he started to try and kind of increase his launch angle. He was at 7.9 last year. He was at 13.2 this year. So that kind of explains a little bit of the strikeout and the average drop. Just he's trying to find the launch angle, find more power. Big power will eventually get you kind of moved along to the majors as well as being able to make contact. So maybe it was something he was working or they asked him to work on. But yeah, I agree. I like Bryce Eldridge. He is a large man, Gray. He is 6'7". If you haven't looked at him yet, Wilmer Flores is gone next year, so there's really no reason he shouldn't have every opportunity to break camp next year. But we'll see if that happens or not. I will say, I think if we're just looking at the profile, Gray, there is a, close your eyes and pass out and dream scenario where you're like, he's 6'7", he's gigantic, big power, had some strikeout issues in the minors. Doesn't that sound like Aaron Judge a lot? I know we were talking about Jack Caglione. He's not done great in his first look. And he had much better strikeout rates and averages through the minors, but he was also more of a polished project. He was, a college bat versus, an 18-year-old. But just looking through the numbers and that's what kind of piques my interest here, Gray. What are your thoughts on that crazy statement? I'm not saying next year.
I mean, potentially, I guess, I guess, yeah, I mean, I guess it's possible. He is a big boy. It's like Judge was, I just refreshed my memory going and looking at his stats. I mean, Judge didn't really get going until he was 25. And like I said numerous times before about Eldridge, he's only 20. So, I mean, he might be a ways away potentially. I mean, if he's up mashing next year at 21, hitting 35, 40 homers as a 21-year-old. I mean, then he's immediately like, okay, this guy's going to be a superstar for a decade at least. I mean, that's like Juan Soto type stuff. So yeah, I mean, he's so young. I don't know. I mean, Judge is a big thing to put on him. It's a big comp. I would probably say, yeah, I mean, maybe, but I don't know.
Again, this is just,
I would say,
very big aspiration there. Just again, looking at the numbers, Judge's last year in the minors, he hit 19 home runs, 5 stolen bases, 270. The year before that, he had 20 home runs, 7 stolen bases, hit 255. 26%, 28%, 26 and 24% strikeout rate. Sorry. And then he came up to the majors and hit 52 home runs at 25. Again, he was also a college bat. He was a polished college bat. He was 22 when he came in versus, again, 18 for Eldridge. I'm not saying, again, Eldridge
Judge had a
52 home runs.
Judge had a 24% strikeout rate.
Yes.
In his last year at AAA, and like we were saying before with Eldridge, he's at 30%. So I mean, I feel like he's just he might be a couple years away. I mean, maybe he's not. Maybe he's like like he could come up and if he puts it together, like I don't think the power is going to be an issue. I just don't know if the contact's going to be there. So if like he comes up next year and hits 30 homers and 230, I feel like that's a success. And then he gets his strikeout rate down a little bit the following year as a 22-year-old, and he hits like 35 homers and 260. And then he keeps like, as a 24 or 23 or 24-year-old, he lowers his strikeout rate even more. And suddenly he's a 40 homer, 280 hitter. I mean, that's totally possible. And then he's a step away from Judge for sure as a 24-year-old, but that's he's got to make that progress. I don't think he's there yet. Not for next year at least. No,
I wasn't saying for next year. I was thinking long term. We're just looking.
Yeah, no, I agree.
The numbers here,
sure. If we're talking 20 as a 24,
human being,
as a 24, 25-year-old, sure, yeah, that's possible. He could get there in 4 years, but that's 4 years. So it's a while. It's a little bit of a ways away, but yeah, I mean, possibly.
Yeah, I'm not saying he's going to come up and hit 52 home runs and 284 like Judge did. That is not what I'm saying. So if anybody's hearing that, please do not take that to heart. But I'm just saying he's a very young talent. Seems like they were working on some things with him this year, or he was working on some things. So it may take some adjusting, but there is big potential there. Wouldn't mind picking him up in just about any league if you're looking for power and just seeing what happens. As you mentioned, he may not play every day, though, so you have to kind of monitor that as the Giants are trying to chase down the last wild card spot.
I would be totally annoyed if they don't play him versus lefties next year too, because then it's like then you're stunting a guy's growth. I think I don't know. I'd be pretty frustrated if they do that next year. Like if he starts the year with the Giants and then doesn't play against lefties. But I guess I could save that annoyance for next year. we can go back.
We'll wait and see what they do. When Wilmer Flores gone again, we'll see what veteran the Giants bring in to block Bryce Eldridge. They're starting to feel more Colorado-y every day.
Yeah. What's I was thinking, what's like Rhys Hoskins? What's his contract like? I feel like he's a guy that gets brought in like out of nowhere. It's like, oh, the Giants bring in Rhys Hoskins just as a bridge. They're gonna bridge. They're gonna bridge to Eldridge.
Yeah,
and I hate.
I believe Rhys is a mutual option, so could be a free agent, could be back with Milwaukee.
Yeah, I guess we'll see.
Probably going to free agency if I have to guess, because he can't stay healthy. But we will see on that as well. Let's move over to Toronto, where they brought up Trey Yesavage.
Ye-Savage, you filthy Ye-Savage.
Yes, Ye-Savage. Yes.
Where are we at? Ren Fair?
He has gone through 3 levels this year. He did 17 innings at high A, 30 at double A, and 17 innings at triple A. 98 innings overall. He has a 3.12 ERA, an 0.97 whip, 160 strikeouts, which was a 41.1% strikeout rate. It does have a 10.5% walk rate. A top 50 prospect as a pitcher means he's pretty darn good, Gray. What are your thoughts on yet another great arm being brought up here at the end of the season in Trey? Yes, Ye-Savage.
Ye-Savage. I think this guy looks great, man. I'm actually really excited about him. Not for this year. Well, by the time people listen to this, he will have already pitched on Monday. So, whatever he did is kind of irrelevant. If he was great, then super. But I don't know how many more starts he's going to get or how many more innings he's going to pitch for the Jays. So this is all kind of for next year at this point. I like his, the fact that he's got such a refined splitter. I don't know why they don't teach everyone a splitter. Like that feels like the get out of jail pitch for everyone. Like if you could throw a splitter well, no one can hit it. It's like the impossible pitch to hit. I think he's like, what is he got? Like 4 or 5 pitches. He's got a variety of pitches. Really good fastball, excellent curve, slider's amazing, splitter's good. His strikeout rate in the minors was awesome. I mean, I see what Itch just came out with a top 50 update for his prospects, his top 50 prospects for fantasy. And, I kind of understand why he's got Ye-Savage. He's got Ye-Savage there in the top 40 because he looks really good. And he's already at the point where, like, when you're only 21, well, he's 22 right now. He just turned 22 in July. But when you're 22 and you're already knocking on the majors door with like those kind of numbers, I mean, that is exciting, especially for keeper leagues. I wouldn't be shocked to see him in the rotation next year for the Jays, and also a top 5 bet for a rookie of the year for AL. Like he looks like he's got the stuff, man. I wouldn't be shocked if he's probably for 12-team mixed leagues next year. You're looking at a guy who's probably going to get drafted around, maybe 225 or something for like a 5th or 6th starter in like an RCL league as a flyer. But he's the kind of guy who could potentially be, a top 30 arm, top 20 even, or top 25, something like that with maybe prorated innings. So, I mean, he's not going to throw an entire year next year, but if he breaks camp, he probably is going to throw through, maybe 125, 135 innings, which is, of excellent innings potentially. Everywhere he went, he sort of just like blew hitters away. He hasn't reached a level where hitters have caught up to him. That's for sure. So yeah, I'm really interested in him for next year. For this year, it is what it is. If people streamed him today, hopefully he did well. I don't know if he's going to get another start, so we'll see.
Yeah, I think we got to name him like the Macho Man, because I don't know. I don't want to have to say his name every time, Gray. It's too much. I mean, I feel like the splitter is an amazing pitch, but it's probably just terrible on your arm because like Ohtani throws it, Guzman throws it, Sasaki and Yamamoto throw it. Alex Cobb has the splitter. Former Cub great Dan Herron.
Ooh. Dan Herron, now that's a name.
Yeah, I mean, there's some pretty good pitchers who also stayed healthy, like Clemens and Bruce Sutter that threw the splitter. But there's also in a different time. I don't know, Gray. I don't have any good reason why the splitter was okay for those guys, but not anymore. But let's move on to those Cubs that I was talking about. They recalled Moises Ballesteros. We talked about him when he got called up initially. He's got called up for a single game with an expanded roster again at one other point, but he has a hit in all 3 games since being recalled. He has 13 home runs, 5 stolen bases. He hit 316, 385, 473 in AAA this year. Are you interested in grabbing Ballesteros this time around?
Yeah, I mean, if he's playing, sure. Again, I think as of right now, like if you're, looking at a guy like Ballesteros, who catcher eligibility, and that's good. But if he's not playing, then it's like, well, it doesn't do you any good for the final 2 weeks to have a guy who looks good on paper but isn't playing. So I like him. I think if it's between him and Carson Kelly, and Carson Kelly's actually playing, I would pick up Carson Kelly. I mean, so it's really just a matter of like who's playing versus who isn't. But yeah, I mean, he looks great. I saw on, I think it was Saturday, his first major league home run. I'm sure you saw it too, where he hit it into the bleachers and Anthony Rizzo bobbled it and nearly caught it when he was sitting out there with the bleacher bums, which is, it's actually, I mean, it kind of warmed my my Grinch heart a little bit. It is pretty cute to have a rookie hit his first home run to Anthony Rizzo in the bleachers. That's kind of cool. But yeah, I mean, for this year, but for next year, I mean, the fact that they keep calling him up, I believe. I think they believe in him. Which they should. And again, I mean, so young. Right now he's 21 years old. Just came off of a minor league season where he hit 316 in AAA as a 21-year-old. I feel like he's like probably a potential top 10 catcher next year if he breaks camp with the Cubs. And I don't see why they wouldn't have him break camp, because it looks like he's, just completely exhausted all minor league pitching. So I think he's ready. He looks ready. I think he's another guy. Let's see, on Itch's new top 50 fantasy baseball prospects, he came in at 42. So yeah, he's in the top 50 as well, just below Trey Yesavage.
Yeah, Gray. I think Ballesteros he's got to be in the plans for next year. I mean, Carson Kelly's fine and all, but it feels more of a backup role, and Ballesteros will get his shot, or they may use him like they're using him right now, which is out of the DH. They have some injuries, obviously. He's been hitting cleanup the last 2 games out of DH. So if they're going to continue doing that, absolutely grab Ballesteros and throw him in your catcher spot, especially if you're like me and you lost Will Smith last week and you're kind of just jumping around from waiver wire pickup to waiver wire pickup at catcher. Moving over to – sorry. You have something to say
there? No, I hear you, and I agree.
Okay. Moving over to Boston, where they called up Connelly Early, 71 innings in Double-A and 28 2/3 in Triple-A, 100 innings altogether, 2.6 ERA, 1.11 WHIP, 31.9% strikeout rate, 9.7% walk rate. He's only a top 300 prospect grade, but these numbers looked really good, and if he's going to get a shot, we might as well talk about him.
Yeah, no, completely.
Did really nice in his first start.
Yeah, he did well for the Red Sox when he was first called up. 5 innings, 11 strikeouts. Yeah, it's kind of interesting looking at his prospect grades from prior to this year, because he wasn't really highly sought or highly touted, I guess. But the numbers really, like, again, they jump off the page for what he's done so far this year in the minors and in his one start in the majors. I think he's, the fact that he's called up, I think he's starting today, Monday, or is it Tuesday? I don't know. He's starting this week. He may have started already. But I mean, at this point, he's just like a streamer. So it is what it is as far as this year. I think, though, for next year, I wish, like, his numbers are so eye-poppingly good that it's hard to not be a little bit excited. But I mean, the fact that he is, somewhat, he wasn't well regarded as a prospect really before this year. that, it's a little concerning, not completely, but the fact that his command is a little wonky for next year. I mean, that's gonna, that'll play into what the expectations will be. And if a guy with wonky command, even if he makes the Red Sox rotation out of spring training, which I'm sure he's going to be, he'll be in line for the fourth or fifth spot, I'm sure. And the fact that his command isn't that good in Fenway is a killer park for pitchers, not a great park. Not killer as in good, but killer as in bad. It's not a good park. And if he's, walking guys and, unable to, if he's got too many guys on base and, his whip is a little bit high, and if it's like if he's a guy who has to strike out everyone, I mean, it could get worrisome, but, that's for next year, I guess, to, concern ourselves with. But yeah, I'm a little bit less excited about his, his command is a little bit wonky. So I'm a little bit less excited about him than some of the other, I guess only Ye-Savage was the only other pitcher we talked about. But yeah, I mean, I'm still, interested enough where I could see potentially him being a flyer around like 250 next year in redraft leagues. So yeah, I mean, he's definitely someone to consider for keepers if you're looking to stash guys for next year right now. I think more than likely there's going to be guys who are above him, I would say. I don't know if he's even guaranteed a rotation spot next year. He's absolutely will be in the running for one. It'll depend on what he does in spring training. But yeah, I mean, he looks better, like stats wise, than most people give him credit for. So, maybe the scouts are missing something with him. The command is a little bit off, so that could be a concern.
Yeah, that's probably the reason I wouldn't necessarily run him out for a spot start here at the end of the season. If he gets into trouble with the walks, it's either a big whip issue or, that turns into a lot of runs potentially and destroys everything he got going. But I am interested to see what his starts here at the end of the season look like and look forward to next year, because that could be interesting. As you mentioned, the numbers don't really seem to match the prospect pedigree, so we'll kind of have to bug itch and see what's going on with that. But being able to pitch, that feels like one of those things that doesn't always get the credit that it should coming through the minors. If it's not, 98 plus or just some nasty breaking ball or something. So he may just be a decent pitcher who just knows how to throw the ball. We'll have to see. Moving over to the Angels, Gray, we're making fun of them. The Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, who got called out about not being that far from Los Angeles. By the way,
we're not as far as San Francisco.
No, it is not as far as San Francisco. It's about as far as I drive every day to work, so not that far really. Although I know how long that takes in Atlanta traffic, and LA traffic has to be probably on scale with Atlanta traffic, I would guess.
I went to grad school in Orange County while living in LA, and I used to drive past Angel Stadium 5-6 days a week, and it's pretty far. It's not that close. I'll be honest. It's a hike, but whatever.
Yeah, it's not a drive you really want to do. Just you're doing it because you have to.
Yeah.
But hey, let's talk about that team that we make fun of constantly. Well, Gray, they finally got one of their cast-offs. Scott Kingery, they finally had enough. They have called up Denzer Guzman. He is, again, a very low-end prospect in regards to what we're talking about normally. 93 games at AA, 36 games at AAA, 129 games this year. He had 17 home runs, 14 stolen bases. He had 247, 343, 426, 25.4% strikeout rate, and 11.5% walk rate. I mean, obviously, we're only looking at AL only for this year, but any thoughts here?
The Angels are just so bad of an organization that it's like this. It feels like this is only an Angels problem. Where I look at a hitter's stats in the minor leagues, And it's like, it doesn't look like they're getting better. It just looks like they're progressing through the system. It's just like they start in high A or single A even with a 230-ish average while striking out like 30% of the time. And then they slowly make their way up. For what reason? I don't know why. I don't know why they're getting promoted when they can't seem to make contact in like the low minors, but then they get promoted and they can't make contact in the upper minors, and they just keep. It's like Joe Adele took he got promoted because they have no coaching in the minors. And it took him like 5 years of major league hitting to like finally, I don't know even what clicked for Joe Adele. I imagine he went outside the organization and someone else was like, dude, you got to do something, man. I don't know, man. I don't know why the Angels, they just keep promoting guys who don't look like they're ready. Like Christian Moore comes to mind. I mean, Christian Moore is probably the guy who's actually in front of Guzman, or I don't know, maybe I guess Guzman got called up because Nito is injured, so Guzman gives them another shortstop potentially. I don't know. Anyway, it's kind of irrelevant. I mean, he was hitting 247 in the minor leagues this year. That's Guzman. You're hitting 247 in the minors and you get promoted. Like, okay, I mean, sure, whatever. I mean, he's only 21, so it wasn't like they had to promote him. He's 21-year-old hitting 247 in the minors. I don't think he's ready, guys. I'm just taking a wild guess here. I don't think he's ready. But yeah, I guess we'll see. Yeah, I don't know what his playing time will be for this year. Neto is, nursing, I think it's his wrist. So, maybe Guzman gets a couple starts while, Neto rests his wrist potentially. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, Adele was ready at 20, and then they were like, no, we got to keep you in the minors and ruin you before you come to the majors. That's definitely what we have to do here. And just for the record, Adele went to Driveline before the 2023 season, and so that's kind of I feel like where we're at now. Driveline is better than the Angels, which is just a sad statement, Gray. When we're talking about a professional baseball organization in LA, that's Anaheim, whatever. That's crazy. Let's move on, Gray. Let's talk about something more uplifting than the Angels. Let's talk about some players who are giving us glimpses into greatness here at the end of the season. Let's start in New York, where Mark Vientos was not good.
Let's talk about something more uplifting than the Angels. Let's talk about the Mets.
Hey, at least there's one bright spot, which is Mark Vientos here, Gray. First half, 223, 6 home runs. Second half, in 22 last games, 11 home runs, and he's hitting 264. Number 28 on the player rater at third base for the season, but number 3 third baseman over the last 30 days. What are your thoughts on this late season charge from only Mark Vientos in the Mets organization?
Well, Juan Soto's been pretty good too, but yeah. Forgot
about that guy.
Actually, their hitting has been good. Their pitching's been a mess. Anyway, except for Sprout, it doesn't matter. Okay, so Mark Vientos, I'll say, I really liked him coming into this year. I wrote a sleeper post for him. I thought everything was about to come together for him, and it's interesting because it's like he cut his strikeout rate from last year, which I thought was going to be the key to his success for this year. And it didn't really fully realize because I think for whatever reason they were, he slumped. I mean, that's why they were doing it, but it's like they were platooning him, which, I think when you got a young player who's slumping and then you start platooning him, I think, it's hard to get out of that slump, that rut when you're not playing every day. So I think potentially there was a little bit like, it was like a thing that sort of spiraled out of control when he started off cold and then it didn't get better. And then he started losing playing time. And, then the injuries hit a little bit. I believe he was out for a little bit with injuries. So it was all like a confluence of like a lot of bad things happened to him. And I think he finally started clicking in the second half. And, I still believe in him. He's a little bit tough for fantasy because he doesn't really give you anything as far as speed goes. He hasn't really shown to be able to hit for a really high average. So you're looking at a guy like, what's really the ceiling here? Is it, 30 homers and a 270 average? Okay, but is that really something like, 0 speed, 270 average, 30 homers? That's fine, but it's like, what's really the huge upside here? And I don't know if there is any. So I still like him though. I think I'm still going to be in next year. I'm probably not going to be as outspoken about it because I've gotten burned this year, and I still worry a little bit that if something happens at the beginning of next year, like, burn me once, shame on you. Burn me twice, I'm an absolute moron. And why do I keep getting burned? Because like, if something happens, in the early going next year and next season, then, if the same thing happens again, where it's like, he's penciled in as the DH, say, coming out of spring training with Brett Beatty as the third baseman, and then Vientos suddenly goes into a slump in April, and before you know it, like, someone else is DHing, and and he's on, and Vientos isn't playing every day, and it becomes the same issue that we had this year. That issue happens again next year. So I'm a little bit more hesitant going into next year, but I still like Vientos. I still think he could be potentially underrated / underdrafted in drafts next year. And I think there's real potential for him. I think there's like a solid, I'd probably say he's solid, if a little bit unspectacular would probably be what I would, label Vientos as, which is fine. I mean, solid is not a bad thing if you have, as long as he has, third base eligibility, because it's not really that strong of a position.
Yeah, it's not. It's been pretty bad this season, Gray. I will say on Vientos, it feels like sometime at the end of last season, pitchers kind of figured him out. That carried over into this season, and now he's made his counter to it. So I can definitely see myself back in on Vientos next year, because I don't think the price is going to be very high at all on him. I mean, he's a free agent in a number of leagues, I believe. So you can pretty much grab him up right now. I don't feel like he's going to be, an expensive buy, but you mentioned the upside. I do think, the average kind of holds you back a little bit, but he did have 27 home runs in 111 games in his first appearance last year. So I do think from a power standpoint, there is upside here, and the ADP should be nice. So I could definitely see myself getting in on him as a power value play. But you're right. There's been enough signs in back-to-back seasons where he just goes through, a significant slump where, you really can't start him for a month, 2 months. And that's pretty hard to roster in 10, 12 team leagues. Even in, kind of a shallower 15 team league where you're needing to have somebody out there, especially in a weekly league, it gets tough. Moving on to Minnesota, where I got to say I was watching the Vikings on Sunday Night Football, and I saw this player banging the drum. And I had to think to myself, I really hope he doesn't pull anything on national TV just in street clothes. And this is, of course, Royce Lewis. Missed time, obviously. First half, 216, 2 home runs. Second half, 253, 10 home runs, 10 stolen bases. In September, he has 12 games where he's hit 280, 3 home runs, 7 stolen bases. Number 42 among third basemen for the season. Again, not a great crop of people, but number 5 over the last 30 days. what are your thoughts on Royce Lewis? And let's just start with whether you would take him or Mark Vientos next season.
Oh, definitely Vientos. I'm not really a Royce Lewis guy. I mean, I think he's fine if you're picking him up off of waivers. I think he's okay if you're like able to get a really good discount. I think Vientos is a solid. Like Vientos hasn't shown me that he can't stay on the field at all, and he's just like I mean, Royce Lewis hasn't shown me anything really. I don't see anything there other than like, he has had a good second half, but I mean, we've seen this before in, small spurts. I don't know. I'm not really a Royce Lewis guy. I think he's, other than the pedigree, which, we've, for a long time, it was like, everyone considered him a future superstar. But besides that, if you just look at his actual stats, I mean, he kind of just looks like a guy who gets hot for, a couple weeks here and there. Other than that, I mean, I don't really see much to Royce Lewis. I don't know. I'm not the biggest Royce Lewis fan. I guess there's a potential where he has like a Byron Buxton type season at some point, and Royce Lewis, stays healthy. As I'll wait for the listeners' laughter to die down. If Royce Lewis stays healthy, go ahead, finish laughing. And he, wants to steal bases and have a huge year, like what we're seeing with Buxton. I guess that's possible, like a year like that. But we also, it took like 7 years to get that from Buxton, and it's like how many times are you going to get in and get burnt, and then and be like, oh, I'm never doing this again. Like at a certain point, maybe we'll get a full season from Royce Lewis, and he'll put it all together. And like this second half where he hit 10 homers and stole 10 bags, maybe he'll stay healthy and then do have a 25 season, potentially at some point. But I mean, you're rolling the dice really. Like there's no way of knowing other than potentially knowing that he has potential. But other than that, there's nothing else you can look at and be like, oh yeah, this is who he's going to be next year. I mean, it's like, it's impossible to trust him. So, it's a hard guy to get in on, a guy you can't trust.
Yeah. So would you put him over Brett Baty?
Baty's issue is he's a lefty, and the Mets have assumed that he just cannot hit lefties, which, I mean, maybe that's a correct assumption, but he's Baty is gonna miss games left and right. Baty's also upside feels very minimal at this point. I don't know. I guess they're close. I mean, I don't think I'm not really a Baty fan. I guess they're close enough, but I'd probably go Royce Lewis for the upside, because I don't know if Baty even has that upside.
Yeah, Baty unfortunately is doing his best Yandy Diaz impression. So all that great power that he has is just going straight into the ground.
Yeah.
And it's just not helpful for us. If he gets the launch angle figured out, he absolutely has legitimate power. I mean, he crushes the ball straight into the ground. It just, it's just straight into the ground, right? It's not real helpful for anybody. So that's why he also goes through slumps and good times, because he gets BABIP luck. And right now, like I said, the second half looks better. So maybe there's definitely more power here. So I'm pulling up real quick just to see what the StatCast says in regards to his launch angle in the second half. It is 2. His launch angle in the second half is 2. So it's not getting any better, Gray. It's getting worse progressively. Yeah, I think I'm probably out on Brett Baty. So, yeah, I'll go ahead and take the chance on Royce Lewis there.
2.
What about Noelvi Marte? You rather him or Royce
Yandy
Lewis?
Diaz looks at that and scoffs. I mean, come on, man. 2? What are you doing, What are you doing, man? I would take Noelvi Marte. I would take Marte over Royce Lewis.
Yeah, and I think the big distinction here between Royce Lewis and, like you said, Byron Buxton is as an example of a guy who was kind of injured and took time. Byron Buxton had a lot of injuries, but they weren't ever really that big of an injury. Like he had a bunch of different issues as well, whereas Royce Lewis just doesn't have a right leg. And tell me if I'm wrong here, Gray. It's hard to play baseball without a right leg. Especially if you were
I don't consider myself. I don't really consider myself a scout, so I don't know for sure if that's true. I mean, it sounds like you're right, but I don't want to say definitively.
Yeah, I think we'll just go ahead with that one then, and we'll move on to Atlanta, where an equally disappointing player is turning it on for the last month here, Gray, just to really confuse us for next season, and that is Ozzie Albies. The first half, 95 games, he hit 220 with 7 home runs and 7 stolen bases. The second half, 54 games, 273, 9 home runs, 7 stolen bases. Amazing enough, Gray, even with that terrible first half and missing time, he is number 13 on the player rater at second base. That's just how bad the position gets after a certain point. What are your thoughts on Ozzie Albies? I know that there was any number of us, including myself, just yelling at myself for having him even ranked at some point during the season. But I mean, he's 13. He clawed his way back to second base relevance. What are we doing here?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right that he has clawed his way back to relevance, but he hasn't clawed his way back into my good graces. Unfortunately, if he cares, unfortunately, he has not made me sit up and take notice of how well he's done in the second half. I am out on Albies. I don't know, like, if you're like, it's impossible for for me to get excited about a guy who is currently September 15th, as we record this, has 16 homers, 14 steals, and is hitting 239. That's not good, man. I don't care. He got better in the second half. He's just like even if you take his second half of 9 homers and 7 steals, and you multiply it by, I don't know, you have to multiply it by 3 to even get me interested. For at least for where I think he's going to go in drafts. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he falls dramatically in drafts, which, I mean, he could, but I feel like he's still going to be overrated. I don't get the sense that people have completely caught on that Ozzie Albies is now going on 2 straight years of being really bad. In the big picture, like you said, he's had, a solid 54 games in the second half, but it's just not enough for me. I'm not interested in Ozzie Albies for next year. I mean, unless he falls really far, like his numbers, if you're making a baseline and saying, okay, so say he gets a little bit better next year, another year away from his injury, he still only will be 29. So say he's a 22 homer, 15 steal, 260 hitter. He'd have to be at like 175 overall for me to even be interested. And I just don't think he's going to be that far down in drafts. So yeah, I'm not. I don't think I'm in on Albies next year. I think me and Ozzie we're going our separate ways for a little while.
Yeah, the second half looks a little bit better here, Gray, but it's just, you mentioned it, it's just not an overly exciting, set of things that he's bringing to the table. He's basically hitting the ball like Nico Horner, but he's not fast. And that's not really something that we want, Gray. He's not swinging hard. Like the bat tracking shows that his swing speed or his fast swing rate is just dropping. And I don't know, Greg. I don't know what's going on. I remember in preseason, I basically said when we talked about Albies, he's a complete just. I'm assuming things will go back to what they were because there was no reason after last year to think anything was going to get better, and nothing got better really, Gray. I mean, the strikeouts are still fine, the walks are still fine, but he's just not hitting the ball hard. I would assume the Braves, if healthy, probably move him to the middle or bottom of the lineup even next year, unless maybe they're facing lefties, he gets back up to the top, but they have plenty of righties to shift up there as well. I just don't know that Ozzie Albies is a great bet anymore. I mean, I know there's still, like you said, what he did in the second half, but 22-15, like that's solid at second base, but that feels like the upside at this point, not the like baseline where we would have once said for Ozzie Albies. Yeah. Unfortunate to hear. Although I do have a conspiracy theory before we move on, since there's not a whole lot more on the show notes here, Greg. He actually just wants out of his terrible contract. So he played the last two seasons just awful so that the Braves would cut him. And then when he goes to free agency, he's just going to tell all teams like, hey guys, I was just getting underpaid so bad that I had to get out of there.
There's really nothing that gets a guy paid as much as playing poorly. That is the most galaxy brain. Like, you know how I'm gonna make some money? By playing really bad.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's probably 30 second basemen making more money than him. So I mean, at some point he's just gotta look around and be like, hey, if I'm the 25th best second baseman, I'm still gonna get paid more than what I'm making right now. I gotta do this.
I want 25th best second baseman type money here. I don't want that. I don't want that top 10 second baseman type money. That's not good. That's not. I want to play so poorly I actually get paid. That's good. I like that. I like that conspiracy.
The Rockies are going to pay him a ton, Gray. I promise you. The Rockies will pay him
you know how excited we're both going to be when he's on the Rockies.
Everybody. The entire fantasy baseball world will be just back in on Ozzie Albies.
Oh, my God. It's going to be like, you think there was a hype over Nolan Jones and Brenton Doyle, respectively, in the last 2 years. Oh, my God. Ozzie Albies of the Rockies? Oh, watch out. I'm talking 37 homers, 20 steals, 290 average. Like, give it to me.
If you have to wonder if that's real or not, Gray, just know that Chris Bryant is still being drafted in every draft every year somehow. So it's definitely going to happen. 100% will happen.
Chris Bryant, who has gone on the record and said, I can't really play baseball anymore.
I can't swing bats or play baseball.
I literally can't. I'm sorry. He's basically been like, I feel bad, but I honestly can't play baseball.
But they're going to pay me, and they have to pay me, so why not?
Yeah. Yeah, so I'll show up. I mean, I'll
show up for spring training, and for the first 5 games.
Yeah, I'll take the money for showing up, but
yeah, absolutely, you got to do that. Let's move on from that topic, Gray. Let's SAGNOF it up. Let's talk about some closers over in Dodgerland. We just get to talk about this every week because they're a good team, but kind of not a great team. Tanner Scott got a save this week, but seems to give you 2 bad outings for every good one. We said Jack Dreyer because he got the save last time. What are your thoughts here on the Dodgers bullpen? Still just Dreyer because he's the only one doing anything significantly okay, or are you willing to pick up Tanner Scott and just roll the dice?
No, I wouldn't. If you're desperate for saves, I would look at Tanner Scott and I would ignore everyone else. If you're desperate for saves, because he seems like he's at the top of the food chain for Dave Roberts. Like Dave Roberts really wants Tanner Scott to be the closer. So if you need saves, go with Tanner Scott. But that's only if you're really desperate. Otherwise, I would just ignore the Dodgers.
Look, David Roberts has to have a fetch player that he's trying to make happen, Gray. He lost Chris Taylor. Max Muncy's never healthy. So he's got to find a new crappy player to try and make happen. So Tanner Scott is fetch.
In Dave Roberts' defense, he made Enrique Hernandez something. He made him fetch for like 5 years when there was really nothing there. I was like, he was basically just a fun guy for the clubhouse. And they're like, yeah, well, he's something. Something. I don't know. Okay.
Also amazing that they just managed to kill Tanner Scott this season. He was a great pitcher for the last 3 seasons, and now he's absolutely terrible. It's awful. Moving over to Houston, Gray. Brian Abreu has given up runs in 3 of his last 5 appearances. I don't know if Houston's going to make a change this late in the season, but who would you look to if they did?
Yeah, I don't think they're going to make a change this late, to be totally honest. But I guess, Brian King, he's a lefty though. I really think it's going to be Brian Abreu. I don't really have a strong feeling for who it would be if it's not Abreu. But I guess Brian King, if they have to, if they really need to make a change. But I would say Brian Abreu is still the closer there.
Yeah, I assume they're gonna just keep rolling out Abreu or Brian Abreu. It should be Brian King or Colton Gordon or Enio de los Santos. Probably doesn't deserve it either, but somebody other than Abreu probably needs to go ahead and get in there. But it's doubtful that it's going to happen. I would go ahead and pick up Brian King and just have him, just because he's going to give you better numbers, and maybe he gets a save here just mixed in. The A's, not somebody we typically talked about getting saves since they traded the only closer that mattered there, but Sean Newcomb gets a save. Is he the closer? Does it matter for us, Gray?
No, I don't think it really matters, but I guess Newcomb, if you were really desperate for saves, I'd probably go with Newcomb, but I don't think he's necessarily going to get the next save. I just think he's probably the best bet to potentially get the next save. And otherwise I would probably ignore the A's if you're not desperate.
Yeah, I think it's Sean Newcomb if you want somebody, and he's actually been pretty good, so it's not like you're sacrificing everything to go after and chase this save. But yeah, I would go ahead and grab Newcomb if they get, any save opportunities. Over in Minnesota, Justin Topa goes to the IL. Genesis Cabrera gets saved this week. Do you think it's Genesis Cabrera? Do you think it's a mix and match what the Twins do? And who else would be in that mix and match, Greg?
Yeah, Baldelli mixes and matches literally every spot in his lineup and every spot in his bullpen. So it's all mix and match for Baldelli. I don't know if that's because he just can't keep things straight in his head, but he's not going to settle on one of these closers. So maybe if you grab Cole Sands or Cabrera, Genesis Cabrera, maybe you get a save or two, but you just be lucking into it. There's no rhyme or reason as to who's going to get the next save. So I mean, unless you're really desperate, I don't think it's worth it.
Yeah, and both Cabrera and Sands have been terrible. I think if you want to look at a potential, random save, I would look at Cody Funderburk. He's a lefty, so it's going to be a situational save, but he's the only one in that bullpen who's been any good that I would even consider rostering, really, unless you were just absolutely trying to chase down every save, and ERA and WHIP don't matter for you at this point. Maybe that's where you're at. Let's move on to the waivers, Gray, and give the people some batters they can look at to help them down the stretch here.
Okay, cool. So it looks like Josh Bell was hot last week. Maybe not this week, but it's hard to tell. He is at the top of the 7-day player rater, though, for the last week because he was crazy hot. There's also Otto Kemp. He also had a really good week last week. Harrison Bader was hot. Michael Hellman. Don't really know who he is, but he was hot. No, I mean, I know he's a Texas Rangers outfielder, but I don't really know. Patrick Bailey was hot, Giants catcher. Cody Clemens had a 3-homer game on Friday, I believe. So that automatically puts him in the running for being hot. And Mickey Moniak had a 2-homer, 2-steal game on Sunday, and the Rockies are going to be home. So actually, the whole entire Rockies lineup, since they're going to be home, and also the Marlins, since they're going to be in Colorado. Okay, who else? Let's see. Will Benson, he had a couple homers. He's been hot, hitting over 400 for the last week. Caleb Durbin's been hot. Dylan Cruz is actually showing up on the hot list. Okay. J.P. Crawford, Jose Caballero. Jose Caballero, whatchamacallit, Yankees guy, multiple position eligibility. The Yankees maybe finally moved on from Anthony Volpe after it was revealed that he has been playing without a shoulder, possibly. Parker Meadows has been hot. Brandon Marsh, Jorge Polanco, I feel like I mention him every week. And then finally, Max Kepler has been hot. So there's some names for you.
Yeah, one thing I know is if I pick up Josh Bell, he will suck, Gray. So just for the listeners, I won't pick him up since you mentioned him here. I'm just going to leave him out there for everybody else. Let's move over to the streaming options. Brader Singer at St. Louis, Cam Schindler at Minnesota at Baltimore, Johan Oviedo versus the Cubs, Parker Messick at Minnesota, Justin Verlander at Arizona, Braxton Ashcraft versus the Cubs, Jake Latz versus Miami, Chris Bassett versus Tampa Bay, Patrick Corbin versus Miami, Clayton Kershaw versus San Francisco, and Eduardo Rodriguez versus San Francisco. All those are suitable streamers depending on what leagues you're looking in. If you have specific questions, you can find us on Twitter. I am at RazBeaton, and Gray is, of course, the owner of the @Razzball accounts. If you have anything you want us to talk about next week, go ahead and throw that at us as well. You can also put it in the comments on razzball.com or in youtube.com/razzballfantasy. Until next week, may your lineups be perfect. May you win your matchups. And I will talk to you later, Gray.
All right, Lance.
All right, see you.